Some people earn millions and literally still end up entirely broke. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are tossing out the complex formulas and the rigid spreadsheets. We're diving into the hidden psychology behind wealth, success, and long-term financial peace. We're going to figure out why so many people struggle financially, even when they work incredibly hard, and what the truly wealthy do entirely differently. Now, here is a realization that will completely flip how you view your life. Being good with money, it has very little to do with intelligence. Seriously, it's not about how smart you are, what college you went to, or how intensely you hustle. It is almost entirely about how you behave. It's a soft skill. We are so conditioned to think of wealth as this rigid math equation, but the truth is, your financial success hinges entirely on your emotional intelligence and your psychological discipline. Okay, let's dive into this with a pretty wild contrast. Picture a brilliant tech executive, a certified genius who patented key components for Wi-Fi in his 20s. This guy carried stacks of $100 bills. He once handed someone thousands in cash to buy gold coins, literally just so he could skip them into the Pacific Ocean for fun. And you know what? He eventually went completely broke. Now contrast him with Ronald Reed, a humble janitor and gas station attendant who hitchhiked to work. When Ronald died, he quietly left millions of dollars to charity. So how does a certified genius go broke while a janitor quietly builds an empire? In what other field does a complete amateur entirely outperform a highly trained expert? Well, it literally only happens in finance. The answer to that mystery is right here, in the source of our explainer today, The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. This specific book shifted the paradigm for millions of people. It proved that wealth isn't a math problem you can just solve. It's a behavioral challenge you have to master. Housel realized that trying to teach people about money through spreadsheets is fundamentally flawed. Because, let's be real, nobody makes huge financial decisions on a spreadsheet. They make them at the dinner table, they make them in a sheer panic, they make them out of pride. Think about it. A genius who loses control of their emotions is just a financial disaster waiting to happen. But the opposite is equally true. Everyday folks with absolutely zero formal financial education can become incredibly wealthy. All it takes is a handful of behavioral skills that have nothing to do with IQ. Soft skills beat technical knowledge every single time. Financial success is not a hard science. It's just a measure of your emotional discipline. Section 1. The hidden money problem. Math versus psychology. We treat money like it's physics. We think it's this rigid, math-based field where you just plug some data into a formula, follow the universal laws, and boom, you walk away rich. But finance isn't physics. A bridge doesn't suddenly collapse because it gets nervous, right? But the stock market absolutely does. When you ignore psychology and human emotion, all those perfect formulas fail completely. If you want to understand why people bury themselves in debt or panic sell at the absolute bottom of a market, you don't study interest rates. You study the history of greed, insecurity, and optimism. You study human behavior under stress. All right, moving on to Section 2, Core Ideas, the lenses we wear. Look at that tiny percentage on the screen. Your personal experiences with money make up maybe 0.0000001% of what has actually happened in the world. But amazingly, those tiny, hyper-specific experiences dictate roughly 80% of how you think the whole world works. A person who grew up in extreme poverty during a recession views risk entirely differently than someone born into wealth during a massive tech boom. They can look at the exact same investment, and one sees a life-changing opportunity, while the other sees total, terrifying ruin. Your tiny slice of life dictates your entire financial worldview. And because of that, people do some absolutely crazy things with money. But here is the real secret. No one is actually crazy. Since we all come from different generations, different economies, and completely different struggles, we all make financial choices that make sense to us internally at that exact moment. The decisions you make are completely justified by the unique story playing out inside your own head. Once you realize this, you stop judging others, and more importantly, you start questioning your own hidden biases. Let's look at Section 3, the biggest financial mistake, having no sense of enough. So why risk everything you actually need for something you don't? Think about multimillionaires like Rajat Gupta or Bernie Madoff. These guys had it all: unimaginable wealth, absolute prestige, power, total freedom. Yet they threw every bit of it away by committing fraud. Why on earth would they do that? Because they were desperate for more. They had absolutely no sense of enough. They risked everything they actually needed just to get something they didn't even need. It is pure emotional self-destruction. And honestly, it happens every single day to regular people who leverage themselves to the breaking point just to buy a slightly bigger house. Just let this profound truth sit with you for a second. Risking what's important to you, your freedom, your reputation, your family's security, for something that is entirely unimportant to you is just plain foolish. Chasing a moving goalpost is the absolute fastest way to ruin. If your expectations rise faster than your income, you are always going to feel broke, no matter how much you earn. Knowing when you have enough, that is the ultimate financial discipline. Section 4. The secret to saving: stop caring. And this brilliantly illustrates how we can fix it. Most people destroy their wealth by chasing appearances. Social comparison is literally an invisible tax on your income. But saving money is entirely in your control. It's a simple behavioral chain reaction. Look, you can save more by spending less. You can spend less if you simply desire less. And you will desire less if you just start caring less about what other people think of you. You don't need a massive salary to build wealth. You just need to stop playing the status game. That right there is the psychological superpower of the truly wealthy. They genuinely do not give a damn what others think about them. They don't spend money just to prove to strangers that they have money. Remember, wealth is what you don't see. Being rich is about current income. It's the loud exhaust on a finance sports car. But wealth is hidden. It's the luxury cars not purchased, the first-class upgrades declined, the expensive watches left in the store. Dropping the need for status brings this deep, unshakable financial peace that no salary increase could ever buy. Let's wrap this up with Section 5, Application: Mastering Your Money Mind. So how do we actually apply this to our own lives? You build an unbreakable strategy through absolute simplicity. There is almost zero correlation between how hard you try at investing and the results you actually get. Seriously. You don't need to perfectly time the next recession. You need a high savings rate. You need extreme patience to let compounding work its magic over decades. You need low-cost index funds. Staying calm, managing your emotions, and actively doing nothing is often the hardest, but most profitable financial skill you can possibly learn. At the end of the day, true wealth is not about acquiring flashy things. It's about waking up every single morning knowing you have the independence to do whatever you want with whoever you want on your own terms. Freedom is the ultimate luxury. It's about maximizing your ability to sleep deeply and soundly at night, totally untouched by financial panic. By the way, this explainer only scratches the surface of these concepts, so definitely check the description below for a link to the original book to dive even deeper. I want to leave you with this final, reflective truth. Wealth is less about what you earn and much more about what you keep. The math of finance is incredibly easy. It's the psychology that's impossibly hard. Because the people who truly master money usually master themselves first. So the next time you go to spend your money, ask yourself, are you buying something you actually need, or are you just buying someone else's opinion?